Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
The show must go on. Make sure the marquee's lit. The show must go on. Don't let the spotlight sit. The future's at stake. Our schools now implore us. Just give kids the chance, and you'll see one day their skills will advance. Move over, make way. The arts must keep their place in education. The show must go on. Come on and board the bus. The show must go on. The children count on us. The curtain must rise. So strike up a chorus. Yes, it's a fact. You'll find the arts expand the mind in science, history, English, math, biology, zoology, and also sociology. Let's keep the arts alive because the show must go on.
Hi, this is Carol Channing. Yes, I'm an actress, musical and all that. Well, I'm so proud to be on the Dr. Sky Show, and always remember to keep your eyes to the skies.
Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Dr. Sky Show, heard exclusively here on TeenTalkNetwork.com and on the many radio stations around the nation that air the Dr. Sky Report. And a special hello, folks, to our flagship radio station, News Talk 1100, KFNX, News Talk Radio 1100, the undisputed 50,000-watt powerhouse of the desert Southwest. And if you're a newcomer to the Dr. Sky Show, welcome once again. Our show concerns the best guest in the world from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, and weather, and an occasional guest and celebrity guest as we're about to introduce today. And ladies and gentlemen, the whole purpose of this show, which has been on the radio and the internet for well over a decade, is to help provide educational opportunities for advancement and get the opinions of some of those in the greatest of all guests that we can get about their many careers and what they can do to help the young minds of this world to continue in education. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest. In just a moment, we'll be introduced to the lovely and talented Miss Carol Channing, a legend of film and stage, who joins us today on the Dr. Sky Show, talking about her brand new CD, For Heaven's Sake, and that is her amazing career and her foundation, along with her husband, Harry Collegian. And with that, it's a distinct privilege and honor here on the Dr. Sky Show to welcome the legend of film and stage, Miss Carol Channing, to the Dr. Sky Show.
Hello, Dr. Sky. I'm proud to be on your show.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Channing. It is a very high honor to have you on our program today talking about your life, your brand new CD, For Heaven's Sake, and this amazing foundation that you have with your husband, Mr. Harry Collegian, who I would also like to welcome to the show. Welcome, Mr. Collegian, to the Dr. Sky Show.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sky. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be with you and your audience and to espouse the purpose of Carol Channing and what she's going to do in this country. And it's a blessing to be here.
Well, thank you both. And that is, of course, we'll be discussing more details about the Dr. Carol Channing and Harry Collegian Foundation for the Arts. And folks, all through this interview, I encourage you to go to www.channingarts.org. Miss Channing, I wanted to again say thank you for joining us today, and tell us, in this part of the Dr. Sky Show, all about the exciting CD that you have, For Heaven's Sake.
Well, for heaven's sake, I'm so wrapped up in getting arts back into public schools that I don't, my own records, it's hard for me to get off the subject of arts back in public schools. Isn't that awful?
It's so important that we talk about this because, again, as I mentioned to you before, a main theme of our radio show is to continue science and education in the arts. And I wanted your husband, Harry, just to comment a little bit more about this phenomenal goal that you both are working towards.
Oh, thank you. Harry, help me.
Yeah, well, I think, Dr. Sky, the main thing is Carol knows the why. Why are arts important to the children of our nation? And why, I'm asking questions, why have the educators and legislators removed the arts from the curriculum of most of the curriculum of our schools in the country? And as a consequence, we've seen a downward trend in the quality education of this nation simply because people don't know, the general public do not know that the arts are a catalyst to learning science and math and all these wonderful subjects.
Things that have nothing to do with the arts, Dr. Sky.
Absolutely.
They have nothing to do with it, but it's fertilizer on the brain, and just without the arts, they don't get the jobs.
Go ahead. No, I try. The only thing I wanted to bring up is that Carol, describe why. I think you can define the why that arts are so important in education. Please do that, Carol. Quote all those great people like Churchill and Einstein and John Adams. And, you know.
Okay, we've been hot on the trail, and we found that. Harry was in 2 wars. And he was there in England. They stationed him in England for part of that, about a year, wasn't it, Harry?
Yes.
And he was in the audience when the general stood up in London and said, "We have no money to fight this war, but we must." Therefore, we must cut out everything that is absolutely not necessary, and we will start with the arts. And Winston Churchill stood up from the audience and said, "Then what are we fighting for?"
Wow.
Boy, that's it. Exactly. People don't realize it. It's like before the fall of the Holy Roman Empire. I know I sound like a nut, but it isn't. That's when they lost their... Albert Einstein said, "Yes, I'll talk to you about my theory of relativity, but truthfully, relativity is great, but the Mona Lisa is greater."
Well, Miss Channing, you're absolutely correct. And if you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing, I think, one of the most amazing interviews we can, talking about the very subject that this whole radio show has been geared toward, that is helping the youth of this country and the world learn about the arts and sciences. Our special guest during this segment of the Dr. Sky Show is the lovely and talented Carol Channing, a legend of film and stage, and she's joined by her husband, Harry Collegian, discussing the details of the Dr. Carol Channing and Harry Collegian Foundation for the Arts, which you, of course, can learn much more by going to www.channingarts.org. And Miss Channing, as we're talking about your phenomenal CD, for heaven's sake, what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, as you're listening to this archive, is actually listen to different soundtracks of this particular CD. And Miss Channing, if you can, just tell us a little bit more. This particular CD is hand-picked spirituals from your childhood. Tell us more about the CD.
Well, my father was born in Augusta, Georgia, and he heard the spirituals going on, and it was... I learned them. He taught them to me since before I can remember, from the bassinet on up, and I loved them. And so I keep saying on the recording while we were doing it, I couldn't stop myself. Did you hear my father's voice harmonizing with me? I did. And I hear my father's voice harmonizing with me, and it makes me sing much freer, I'm sure of the notes, I'm sure of everything. And he's taught me how to do that. Oh, Mama, send me a letter. Papa, send me a stamp. Says, son, won't you please come back home? I hung my jawbone upon the fence. I ain't never seen my jawbone since.
I think this is a most amazing moment here on the Dr. Sky Show. And for the listeners of the radio show, we're now going to hear the first of 3 tracks that we've chosen to play. We're about now here, of course, to hear track number 1 that we'll be playing. This is track number 3 on the great CD, or amazing CD for heaven's sake, entitled Joshua Fit, the Battle of Jericho.
Oh, yes.
Jericho, whoa, whoa, Jericho, whoa, whoa, Jericho, whoa, whoa, Jericho, whoa, whoa.
Joshua fit the battle of Jericho. Jericho, Jericho, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, but the walls come a-tumbling down.
Down, down, down.
Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, 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 Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, but the walls come a-tumbling down.
Down, down,
Oh, you
down.
may talk about your man of Gideon. You may talk about your man of A. Oh, you may talk about your man of Gideon, but the walls come a-tumbling down. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho. Jericho, Jericho, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, but the walls come a-tumbling down.
Down, down, down.
Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, 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 Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, but the walls come a-tumbling down.
Down, 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 First they marched around the wall and blew their horn before the wall. Then with a shout the walls came down and in they went to take the town.
Oh, you may talk about your man of Gideon. You may talk about your man of A. Oh, you may talk about your man of Gideon, but the walls come a-tumbling down. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho. Jericho, Jericho, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, but the walls come a-tumbling down. But the walls come a-tumbling down, 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 down.
Jericho, 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 Jericho.
And thank you, Miss Channing. Talking about her new CD, For Heaven's Sake, and joining her is her husband, Harry Collegian, who, of course, with Dr. Carol Channing and Harry Collegian, they have this most phenomenal foundation for the arts that you can learn about by visiting www.channingarts.org. Miss Channing, with your expertise and your great career, please give the young children out there the advice that would come from you as to what it takes to become an actor or an actress or someone on stage, because I know today that seems to be, just as it always was, a very competitive field to be in.
Yes, I found, I did some 10 shows on Broadway. I started out, I understudied Eve Arden in Danny Kaye's, I believe, his first musical.
Right.
And it was Let's Face It. And I got a chance. Danny told Vinton Friedley, the producer, he said, "Oh, hire her." I was auditioning, and he came in to watch the audition, and he said, "Look, she's built exactly like Eve Arden. Go ahead and hire her, Vinton Friedley. Why don't you? It'll save you all that money from a whole new set of costumes." And so he did. And then I went on to 10 bit parts, larger parts, so on. And finally, I found, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, we toured with it, and we toured with Hello Dolly, and over a span of 30 years, and I learned that all the artist does, this is my own discovery, all the artist does is recreate what was already created, and I'm pointing straight up.
Wow.
So that's what we do. We recreate what was already created, and that privilege gives you the knowledge I learned as I kept doing, and it never. And Al Pacino and friends of mine would come and say, "You're the long-run girl of all time. How do you keep a show fresh?" Movie stars ask me that question. It's easy. It's easy when you're recreating what was already created by a great playwright, Thornton Wilder, by a great composer, Jerry Herman. There's a spine to every show. It's thrilling when you find out that's where it comes from.
Well, Miss Channing, this is the most amazing moment in my day. And certainly I do appreciate everything you and your husband are doing. And I just had a couple of other questions back to your days of film and, of course, on the stage. Of all the actors and actresses that you've met in your lifetime, who stands out as some of the ones that really were special to you and most memorable, and why?
Yeah, I have to tell you the absolute truth. You know those shows where you gather all the current stars together?
Yeah.
They used to have television shows, and they'd fly them in from Hollywood and all that, and we would talk to one another, and my gosh, every single one of them knew more because they were artists. Edward G. Robinson said, "Do you find," he said, "you see, movie stars have to do whatever Sam Goldwyn or Metro, whatever.
Sure.
They have to do whatever script you're handed, and we have to do it." And he says, and I say to myself, I don't want to do this script. And he said, by the time I get through memorizing it, have you found, Carol, that once you memorize it, you've got, suddenly it might be your best performance. Once you get it memorized, it just might be. And I felt that Edward G. Robinson just went up, up, and up in his career. And once you've got the arts and you've got the hang of where they come from, it's a strange thing. Now, I remember I had ovarian cancer during Hello Dolly.
Oh.
And the doctor would stand in the wings, Dr. Cahan, and he was there, and I thought, gee, I can't miss a show. If you miss a show, you lie in bed at home thinking, oh my gosh, they've gotten a babysitter, they've driven nobody knows how many miles, they've traveled, and they've gotten these people saved their money to buy their tickets for the big hit show on Broadway and all that, and they wanted the children to see it and all that, and I'm not there. And you reach to the heavens to get the show out, and that's my best performance. Isn't that a phenomenon? But that's what happens to all of us.
That is so amazing.
It is.
I do appreciate your answers here, Miss Channing, and I wanted to, if I may, in the time we had with you today, just zoom back to your new CD, For Heaven's Sake. But I'd also like to ask your husband, Harry Collegian, just a few questions, because I see that your passion, of course, is to continue to promote the arts. And, Mr. Collegian, I just wanted to know, you're obviously doing this at the legislative level, and tell us a little bit more about the initiatives that you had to try to get not only in Stanislaus County a model for the state of California bringing arts back into public schools, but you're trying to do this nationally, too.
Yes, sir. That's true, Dr. Sky. Of course, it's not really legal for a foundation to forward legislation. But Jackie Spear, she, because of her being inspired by Carol, wrote the most beautiful document on the whereas and the why of bringing arts in the school. And I'm not going to go through all of that because I think Carol has done that. But it's a magnificent piece. It's in Congress. It's passed the House, going to the Senate. It's in the Senate. 275 is the name of the bill. And so, in my thought process, I said, wow, this calls for the second Sunday of the September of each year to celebrate for 1 week the arts and education. So I said, this is the time to do a national telethon so that we can bring it's a four-prong attack. We can bring all the kids to the forefront to show this great artistry that these kids have. Second, we bring the teachers in the forefront to express the transformation they've witnessed of these children who have become what they were before the art program and after the art program. And the third thing, bring the celebrities. Carol has brought a bevy of wonderful, wonderful celebrities to the forefront, and they're anxiously waiting so this telethon can begin, and they can also talk about the arts. And the last prong of the how-to is that we solicit through the National PTA of 5.5 million members, those school districts, but the schools within the school district that has the greatest need, financial, they're very poor neighborhoods, there are a lot of social problems in those neighborhoods. The dropout rate is sometimes as high as 50%, and to get art teachers for those neighborhoods first. We can't do this a grand slam. It's not going to happen. That isn't the way Congress works. That's not the way our country works. But once we can break that ice, once we can make that step, those 4 steps, we're on our way. This country is on its way. And my warning to Washington, to our legislators, to our educators, and to the people of this country, if we fail, and we're not, Carol's going to be 90 in a couple of months, I'm going to be 90 next month.
Well, God bless
91,
both of you.
I'll be 91, that's right.
God bless both of you. That's amazing.
Yeah, and so I am absolutely confident that with the structure of what we got, Carol will be successful in at least giving it a kickstart, and then it'll take on a life of its own, and then I'll feel confident that America's future is secure. Having said all of that, thank you for the opportunity.
No, and I want to thank everyone here. We're not quite done yet, but I want to remind our listeners of the Dr. Sky Show, if they'd like to learn more, and of course they do, we're speaking, of course, to the lovely and talented Carol Channing, a legend of film and stage, and equally important, her husband Harry Collegian. They've joined together with the Dr. Carol Channing and Harry Collegian Foundation for the Arts. Learn more about them and this most passionate website.
Dr. Sky, can I add one more thing?
Please, go right ahead, sir.
I would like to suggest to your audience, Carol and I met in 1933 when she was 12 years old and I was 13.
That is amazing.
And we established a relationship. I mean, it was puppy love. Sure, it was puppy love, but it was real to the puppy, of course. And we went together for a long time under certain conditions that I set forward. I wanted to be a lawyer, and of course I never got that because the war came along and we had a job to do. In any case, then I never saw her again for over 70 years, and just 7 years ago, Carol, I was 82 and I was 83. We got married, and then now we've started this campaign in the closing years of our life, and we believe in our country. We believe in the great country that we are, and we want to help sustain that if we can, and with the help of everybody else, and with their help, of course, we can do it.
Well, that's fantastic, and we'll take a short intermission, ladies and gentlemen, and as we do that, we'll go to another one of the many great tracks on, of course, Carol Channing's wonderful CD, For Heaven's Sake, this one entitled The Show Must Go On.
Oh, good. You're going to do The Show Must Go On. That's important.
Absolutely.
The show must go on. Make sure the marquee's lit, the show must go on. Don't let the spotlight sit, the future's at stake. Our schools now implore us, just give kids the chance, and you'll see one day their skills will advance. Move over, make way. The arts must keep their place in education. The show must go on. Come on and board the bus, the show must go on. The children count on us, the curtain must rise. So strike up the chorus. Yes, it's a fact you'll find the arts expand the mind in science, history, English, math, biology, zoology, and also sociology. Let's keep the arts alive because the show must go on.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, amazing. The show must go on. And our very special guest of this segment is the lovely and talented Carol Channing, a legend of film and stage, and joining us today in a very special interview on the Dr. Sky Show is also her husband, Harry Collegian, discussing the Dr. Carol Channing and Harry Collegian Foundation for the Arts. Visit them at www.channingarts.org. Ms. Channing, going back to your wonderful career in film and, of course, stage, give us, in your own words, some of the most amazing performances that, of course, will always resonate as the best in your mind, and the ones, of course, that will always put a smile on your face. I'm sure they all do, but I'm sure some are even more important than others.
Let me think. You know, one that comes to me is when the Kennedys, exactly 1 year to the day, Jacqueline Kennedy and her two children, Caroline and John, she brought them to a Wednesday matinee, and it was their first time out in the whole year after his assassination.
Yes.
And they were there in the theater for Hello, Dolly. And I was so proud of that audience. It was mostly women. They didn't stare at them. They just wanted them to enjoy the show. All the women in the audience were just wonderful to them. When Jacqueline Kennedy brought John to the ladies' room, he was so little, she had to bring him to the ladies' room. In intermission, they didn't stare. They just said, you know, they didn't intrude.
Sure.
And they came backstage after the show and knocked on my door, and I opened the door, and there was Caroline Kennedy. And I said, Caroline Kennedy. And she said, Mother, she looked up and said, Dolly Levi knew my name. Now, how did they keep her from knowing the whole world knew her name?
Wow, that's tough.
I don't know how they did it, but they did it, and then the crew took John. They said we had a train that ran around the stage in Hello, Dolly, a wonderful train that was amazing, and the crew stayed between matinee and evening show and said, John, would you like to ride on our train? Oh, yes, he said. And so he rode as the engineer, then he went back and sat in one of the seats, and they just rode around all during, and they said, do you want to go again? Oh, yes. And they stayed there. They wanted to father him. That's what it was. I said, boy, that was wonderful. You did without dinner, and now you have to go and do the evening show. We'll have to get some sandwiches or something for you. Well, nobody bothered. Anyway, I remember that performance. And Jacqueline Kennedy wrote me a beautiful note after that saying that her daughter went from door to door. She said, I think your great big bag is very chic, Caroline said. So she said she went from door to door in their apartment building where they lived off Central Park in New York and said, my name is Dolly Levi, and I've old corsets reboned, all the things she did, and boy, I mean, really, it was so good to piece that family, to try to piece them together again.
Well, Miss Channing, it's a wonderful experience, and before we end our interview, going back to your newly released CD, for heaven's sake, we'll now play the last of the tracks, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. And And you know something, ladies and gentlemen, this is really a distinct honor and a privilege today to have both the lovely Carol Channing and also Harry Collegian here to discuss the wonderful foundation for the arts that they've developed at www.channingarts.org. And again, I want to thank you so much, both of you, for joining us here on the Dr. Sky Show. And one last question, if I may, Miss Channing. I understand.
I love your questions, Dr. Sky, yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I have one last question, and this is really for both of you, but I know that you're also, if I'm correct, there's a new CD coming out called what? American Carol, discussing patriotic songs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, well, I just heard it, and I loved it. I mean, you know, you never like the sound of your own voice. Nobody does. So I just ignore that and just hear the thoughts behind it, the emotion behind it, and I felt it very deeply, and I can hear my father's voice harmonizing, and that helped me a lot when I was making that album.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Channing. I do appreciate your time, and a tribute today, ladies and gentlemen, to Carol Channing, a legend of film and stage, joining us today talking about her new CD, For Heaven's Sake, and also this most wonderful CD, a traditional CD going back to patriotic songs about America entitled American Carol. And joining us on the line today is her husband, Harry Collegian, with the Dr. Carol Channing and Harry Collegian Foundation for the Arts at www.channingarts.org for the amazing CD, For Heaven's Sake.
Walking down Bourbon Street, and I saw my old friend, but he looked miserable. So I said, "What's the matter with you?" And this is what he said. Went down St. James Infirmary, found my baby there, stretched out on a long white table, so sweet, so cold, so bare. Went up to see the doctor. She very low, he said. Went down to see my baby. Good God, she was lying there dead. Oh, let her go, God bless her. Wherever she may be, you can search this wide, wide world over. There will never be another for me. Oh, when I die, you can bury me. Boxback coat and Stetson hat. Put a $20 gold piece on my watch fob to let the Lord know I'm standing pat. Now that you've heard my story, now that you've heard the news, if anybody happens to ask you, I got the St. James Infirmary Blues.
And that concludes this exciting exciting edition of the Dr. Sky Show from the realms of subject matters of astronomy, space, aviation, and the subjects of weather, with occasional celebrity guests mixed into this most interesting show, talking about futures, careers, and how, of course, we can pass on the torch of education from all of us to all of the young children are not only here in America, but around the world. Until next time, I'm Dr. Sky, encouraging each and every one of you to always remember to keep your eyes to the skies.
Oh,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sky, I'm so proud to be on your show. Thank you very much for letting us be on the show. And I have to have one more thing. We discovered poetry, Harry Collegian and I, when I was 12 and he was 13. And by the time we graduated from middle school, our grades went up, up, up in science, English, math, biology, zoology, and even sociology, pomposity, verbosity. There's a song there. The end of the song goes, oh, but it's true. Our grades, we graduated, Harry graduated a year ahead of me, being a year older, and his grades went up, they skyrocketed, and he was the best all-round student. They've got it on exhibit there, a silver disc for Harry Collegian. He won it, and the next year when I graduated, I got the very same award, and that's because we were madly in love with poetry. Harry fell in love with Edgar Allan Poe, and Annabelle Lee, and I fell in love with what of the wing that yearns to soar, the feet that plead to dance, shall not a heart hope long and more to master circumstance? You, Board of Education, you are the circumstance. You've got to give us arts in public schools.
Absolutely. You say it so well, Miss Channing, and a salute to you and your wonderful career of film and stage. And also I want to salute Harry Collegian for his service to our great country, the United States, the greatest country in the world. I want to salute you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sky.